So for you to move to Power Query Editor while you're on this home page, all you need to do is click on Transform Data. And in fact, when you hover your mouse across Transform Data, you see the tip there, the two tips saying, use the Power Query Editor to connect, prepare, and transform data. Meaning we can connect to our data sources even from Power Query Editor. So what I want you to do is just click on that icon on Transform Data to open up the Power Query Editor, which is where we will be dwelling on today. So what this class will focus on will be to demystify everything in terms of the ribbons you see here and use them to transform data so you understand the different use cases. But before we get started, okay, thank you, Ken. But before we get started, I want us to bring in all the data sets we'll be using. Then I can now take out time to walk you through the interface of Power Query, and then we can now start the cleaning. I want us to do it sequentially so everybody's carried along. So we are going to be bringing in all the data sets we'll be working with today. That is, all the data sets we'll be cleaning in class today. And then I will now walk you through the interface and we'll start to clean. I'll do one, and then I'll allow you to do one to be sure you are gaining knowledge on how to clean the data set. And that's how we'll roll until 2 p.m. when the class will be over. Okay, while you're here, you would notice that the interface looks similar to other Power BI tools. You have your tabs and your ribbons. So these are the tabs. You have your home tab, transform tab, etc., etc. I'll still come back to explain each of these tabs and ribbons. But at this point in time, I just want you to go to your home tab. And under your home tab, you see under the new query. Under the new query ribbon, right, you see something called new source, right? Because I want us to connect to new source. When I say new source, I just mean for us to connect to bring in those data sets that we want to bring in. So just click on new source, okay? And I think the first data I want us to bring in, let me see. I want us to bring in the all expenses data grouping. And you can see it's an Excel file, Microsoft Excel. So I'm just going to go to Power Query. Under new source, okay, you will see common source, Excel workbook, right? So click on Excel workbook. It should point you to, or it's just going to guide you to navigate to where you have saved that data set that you want to connect to. And then you just need to select that data, okay? So I'm just going to go to my desktop, which is where I have it. And the first one I want to bring in is called the all expenses data grouping. All expenses data grouping, okay? So I'm going to click on open so I can preview what is in there. And Power Query, we connect to that data source in just a couple of more seconds, depending on your computer speed. Okay. If you're here in the navigator dialog box, please give me a 5. Please give me a 5 if you're here in the navigator dialog box. Let me see, how many 5s do I have? Great, so people are following me. Okay, so you notice that in this file, we have only one spreadsheet, or one worksheet rather, called expenses. So to bring it in, all we'll do is check the box. And again, you can preview what this looks like. So what essentially I'm doing is that I've collected different data sources that will help us to explain how to do the essential cleaning or data preparation steps that you should know at this point in time. Okay. So once we check this box, all I just need you to do is say, okay, to bring them in. Later on, we will preview all we need to do here. And we'll discuss all this in brief, right? We'll discuss them in detail rather. I want us to just bring in data sources or the data sets in first. So I would like you to rename this so we remember what we want to do with them. So to rename this, you can just double click on this place, or you can right click, you see rename, anyone that's easy for you. But I think double clicking is easy. So just double click. Once you double click, you can now modify the name of that query. All I want you to do is to put underscore and then just name this grouping. I want to use it to teach you how to do grouping. If you eventually need to do that while analyzing your data. Okay, so all I've done is bring in this spreadsheet or this table called expenses, and I've double clicked to rename and then put underscore grouping because we want to do grouping with that. Okay, so essentially the other ones I'll be a bit faster because it's just repeating these steps, bringing data and renaming. Okay, so just work with me. I'll go and pick in other Excel files that I have there. So let's see. Click again on new source, select Excel workbook, and it should open up. I don't know why this is lagging a bit. Okay, the next one I want us to bring in is the second one called append. Append. Okay, click on open so we can preview everything that's there. And under append, you would quickly observe that we have 3 worksheets there, one called Central, East, and West. And from the name I've called that data set, you would notice that what I want to illustrate with that is how you can append data, right? So if you have reports or tables that grow every day and you want to keep appending records to each of them, how can you do that? Hopefully when you do SQL next weekend, you start to learn things about how to use inserts or merge into or joins, right? So this is what we want to illustrate how to do so in Power Query. So we need all these 3 worksheets. So check the box for each one. So check the 3 boxes and click on OK to bring them in. So I click on the 3 boxes and click on OK to bring them in. So I can double click on each of them just to put append. All of these namings are not mandatory. It just helps me to have a mental picture of what I want to illustrate with each of them so that I don't lose my chain of thoughts. So append. Again, one transformation you should be aware of is naming of your files in terms of tables or columns. You want to name your tables or your columns in a way that is descriptive enough for someone else to understand what they speak to. You don't want when you're done creating your Power BI reports or your SQL files or your reports, and someone else comes across that report and they can't make sense out of what you're doing. So you want to name your files, your columns in a proper way that is descriptive. Using acronyms or initials or abbreviations that are not clear is not encouraged, okay? So again, I will go back to pick other Excel files that are still pending. So I see this one called pivot on pivot transpose data. Again, select that pivot on pivot transpose data. Click on open to bring them in. And here we have a table and a sheet. If you preview it, you would notice that they're essentially the same thing. So there's no need bringing 2 of them in. We just need 1. So I just want you to check the box that is called table 2. Okay, table 2 under the pivot on pivot transpose data. So say OK to bring it in. And this table 2, I'm going to rename it. I'm just going to call this pivot on pivot transpose. Pivot on pivot transpose. Before the class will end, you understand everything regarding all this that I'm bringing in. At this point, we're just bringing in files. If you're still with me, please give me a 3. So I know I'm not just alone. You're working alongside myself. Please give me a 3 if you're still with me. Right. Thank you, Toyin. Thank you, Idowu. Thank you, Adiola. Thank you, Tosin. Thank you, IBK. Right. I see you. I see you. We're together. So let's keep going. Okay. So let's go and bring in the final Excel file that we have for today. then we'll bring it in text file. So I'll click again, new source, Excel. Then I see this crime statistic 2017 enter. I'm sure in your beginner class, most likely you've seen the beginning part of the crime statistics data, 2019, I believe. So this one, we will be using it to learn how to clean data sets. So click on crime stats and click on open to bring it in. This one has a couple of tables, or rather worksheets. So let me show you the ones we're working with. We're working with the top 5. This last two, summary and go back. If you click on it to preview, you see just summarizing everything we have in the other places. So we essentially do not need them at this point in time, but if you feel like bringing them in, you can bring them in. So in fact, we can bring them in. So let's check the box for first one, area commands. We're going to bring them in. See that lots of issues with data sets. We'll see how to clean them up. Second one, inspection, RF. I just wanted to check all the boxes. The only one we'll spare will be the one that says go back. We don't really need go back. So just check the other boxes, about 7 of them, and click on OK. So by now you already start noticing that we have lots of tables to clean into this class, which is why I told you it's going to be hugely practical. Trust me, as we continue, you see that it's fun. Most people will tell you that the most laborious and uninteresting part of the data analyst job is the data preparation part, because it's just laborious, it's just stressful. It's not as fun as you're seeing your number, your colors, your numbers, insights are jumping at you and all of that. Here you're just cooking. Can imagine when you're cooking, it's not so much fun unlike when you're eating the food, right? Except you're a chef and you just like to cook. But yeah, you need to learn to do data preparation because they're essential in your journey. So once you're done checking the 7 boxes, just click on OK to bring them in as usual. I won't bother myself naming these ones because the tables are a bit well named. It's just for us to go into them and clean them up. Okay, so we're not done bringing in our Excel files. I think I have just one TXT file, text file. So I'll just bring that in also. And we have sufficient data to play around with in class today. So I'll click on new source again. For this time around, I'll click on text/CSV. CSV is comma separated value. Okay, so I'll select that. And I can see I have 2 data sets in this regard, trim and clean and client. So let me bring in the trim and clean, which is a CSV file. So I will just click on open to bring it in. And here, all I just need to do is click on OK to load that table. Trim and clean, it's already well named, so I'm fine with that. Then the final data set we'll work with is again text/CSV, the client's text file. So I just bring it in. And this has just 1 column of data. So I just click on OK to bring it in. For the client data, I'm just going to rename it a bit so I remember what I want to do with it. So I will just put underscore column splitting. That is what I want to do with it. So we are done bringing in data sets I want us to work with in class today. So let's count. 1, 2, from the queries, we can see we have about 14 of them.